Welcome, Phil. So, actually, I've seen on Facebook and Twitter, I've changed my 3D engine in quite a bit. Not quite a bit, basically used, basically added like a lot more features to the whole thing. So I showed you that I've now got ambient occlusion using screen space. I've got tone, not tune mapping, and bloom as well. So it's basically it blows up a little bit, see what it all looks like. So with that crazy amount of bloom, but using tone mapping, it's like a very nice atmospheric shot, I think, using the light. I mean, if you don't use tone mapping, it just looks not as bad actually as I expected it to be. That's alright. So the diffuse. Okay, there's all these textures are very weak diffuse and ambient, so it doesn't pop as much as we expect. But yeah, I got a very nice shot using ambient occlusion, tone mapping, and bloom. It doesn't go crazy over the top. It's also fixed a few issues that I've seen beforehand. So it normally would happen using a light like this, like a point light, is because you use like a cube map to create shadow maps in all direction. You usually would see like gaps in the shadow here, so I fixed that in the fragment shader. And also with the bump mapping enabled, what sometimes can happen is that the normal maps that are used and the subsequent normal vectors that are used in the fragment shader, calculated rather in the fragment shader, could point to the sides because you might imagine a brick wall where a brick sticks out and a normal goes basically towards the camera, goes all the way to the left or to the right. And if it goes to the left, then the light calculation was like, this normal vector here is pointing towards the light, so I should shade it and apply light to it, even though the entire face is moved away from the light. So I updated that shader to make sure that that doesn't happen anymore, so you don't get any weird bleeding of light coming through due to the oddities of the normals generated in the fragment shader. So this is basically what it looks like. To get an idea like what the bloom would look like all crazy, you can just amp this up to here. Oops. And then render it and should pop a lot more without the tone mapping enabled. So let's see. So yeah, so with the diffuser set to a lot brighter color, it gets picked up by the Lumient detector that detects parts in the image that are very bright and then applicable to apply bloom to it. But if we apply the tone mapping to it, it gets a lot more muted and gets like a more pleasant result because of it. So let's put this back to roughly where it was. I think it was around here somewhere. It's good enough. Right. So what we're doing now is to create, or basically make the bottom part of this level like a playable area for a player to walk, so you can see what it would look like in the game. So basically a player here, there we are, and then we need to start adding collisions to this bit. So make sure it collides with the ground like so, and then I need to scale it up so it reaches both walls. Oops. Is that enough? Yeah, that's more than enough. So I'll back just a little bit. There we go. And also extend it to the side so it covers the entire play area. Here we go. A bit more. There we go. Right, then we need to cover the pillars. So I could use cylinders, base cylindrical collision shapes to cover the pillars, but a cube will do just fine. Plus be a lot cheaper for the physics calculations because there's like less faces to consider. Here we are. Upwards across the pillar, more or less. Here we are. And then we just select this, select a line a little bit better. That will do. Cool. And then basically copy this collision shape across the level to cover all the pillars. Oops. That's a big one. That's slightly different. So I'll copy this one again over here. Here we are. And then need to create ones for the bigger ones. So let's make sure, well, actually just scale it up and reposition it slightly. There we are. And same on this side. Let's move it over. That will do just fine. And oops. Okay, be slightly bigger like this. So yeah, I could use more complex collision shapes, but I think this will do just fine for now. So let's move this one over here. There we are. So position these a bit better, like so. Yeah, this is just fine for now. Alright, so then we should be able to select all these collision shapes, copy them, and move it over to the other side. There we are. Okay, so let's see if this works. So if we, oops, need to create enough mesh, of course. Boom, there we go. So if we drop in, then the play should collide with all the collisions here, as you can see. So this works perfectly. So funny enough, because the play is completely, admit like a lot of light itself, it's therefore applicable to bloom, which is funny. It looks quite funky actually. So what I should do in future is probably to include like a specular light thing, or just discard all emissive light maybe, or just, yeah, add properties to entities and then materials to say just do not apply bloom to this, then the luminance detector wouldn't pick these up and then wouldn't apply bloom to it. But it's a funky card nonetheless. Right. So what I can do then is to, I'm not going to bother with the outside walls because why would we, but I can make like a little staircase up here to allow the player to go upstairs and roam about here for a bit. So let's do that now. Let me just not render that much for now because we don't need to look at that. Right, so let's start with a, I guess, cubes we can use. Why not? So he can see my chops as a amazing level designer. How can I do this? Right, so I think it'll make tiny staircase side shapes like this. So let's move it over here, I guess. Will that work? I don't know. This is all total experiment, by the way. I've never tried this before, so let's see what we do. So if you just copy this, move it like so. That's like these two. Copy that, move that, and like so. And copy all these bits. Slightly going there. Plus, we basically exponentially increase the sizes by which we extend our staircase. So that's good progress, I think. Okay, it's probably going to be a bit too much. I mean, these ones on top, but who knows? Oh, oops, undo. There we go. Let's line these up, and then get rid of all the bits that we don't particularly need. How's it looking? Okay, I think we just got one too many, so let's get rid of this bad boy. And we want to keep the rest, but I need to shift it slightly over. And I don't need to render all the normals. That's a bit over the top and distracting. Okay, so I want you, and you. That's all. Oh no, selecting big in the background as well. Shame on me. You. Okay, I think it's all of them. So let's shift it to the right a little bit. Okay, I can actually fit between these two columns at the top. Reduce it slightly. Yeah, that will do, I think. That's good enough. So then we can create one big shape out of this. So it's no longer. So one of the features of the is you can basically select any number of shapes and then combine to one big shape, and everything crashes. Excellent. Let's see if we can recover any of this. What were we? You. Oh no, staircase is gone, but our collisions remain. Okay, something went slightly wrong there. Okay, let's make this slightly easier then. So, shape like that, and I'll just make a ramp instead. Oop. Oops. There we go. Boop. Okay, let's just line it up nicely, so it's like this. Move it slightly forward. Okay, let's move one down, so match with the ground there. Perfect. Okay, so we get a collision to this thing, so that's not ideal. Oops. Okay, that matches up. Whoop. It's thinner, a bit longer. Something like that. Let's see how it fits. A bit too long. So one thing I still need to do is to actually enable shading and rotating in local space. I currently only use like global space. So if we were to rotate like this and then apply scale, it basically scales based on how it's rotated in global space, which is not ideal. So there's still a few tools, features missing, but I'll get there. Come on. There we go. That's close enough. So let's make sure it's the same width. And let's give this a fancy texture so it doesn't look as raw, but it does currently. So let's hide from here. Sure, I can't actually see what this looks like. Nope. Okay. So let's cycle through and see what. Nope, not you. Let's see. Common. Here we go. Let's use this for now, and I'll use the similar bomb mapping file as well. So another thing I still need to do is to actually enable some form of UV editing on the shapes. Because currently we just use whatever UV comes with it. It uses like 0, 0 here and 1, 1 at the end, so the texture scales all across this thing. It'd be nice to be able to change that, but that's not an option yet. So let's see what you got. So no ambience and available diffuse. Let's just copy what they've got going for themselves. Something like that. That will do. Actually, it's got 160. Okay, just copy 160. Come on. There we go. Then 146. And plus 143. There we go. Okay, just make sure it all just fits in, if you were. Right, so don't need to do this, but let's see what the mesh looks like. So creates like a thing. So if you've got any eye, basically will know that actually you can move up this ramp like the player can, and then at the very top just fall down because you don't have to put any collision there yet. So next thing to do is basically add collision to the top floor to make sure a player can move up there as well. Okay, let's do that. So it looks like a very simple way of doing that. So select this bit, add collision modes. Okay, so let's drag this upstairs and apply collisions to the floors here. So here we are. Let's make sure it's flush more or less. There we go. And then the scale whole thing up. So it's goes all the way, slightly more. So yeah, one of the things that I still want to improve is basically move this widget to wherever the camera is. So this move here basically could be positioned over there, at least within a position where the camera can actually see it, so users can actually interact with it. Let's see, move slide to the side. And of course, it's rendering, but still renders the other shapes that are not selected. And because it's bump mapping, it renders something very, very weird, but we'll go with it for now. Okay, so got a shape here, so let's copy this one and move it to the other side of the floor. And then we just need to do the end bits. I suppose we could do the verses here as well if we feel so inclined. Okay, so that's that. So add a new collision box. Here we are. I don't need to see this. Thank you very much. It goes up over here. And just make it fit the bits that it's not to cover the other collision bits yet. So let's move this over. That will do. And then like that. And then I can copy this over and move it to the other side. Alright, so if we load into this level now, we should see the player can now walk up the ramp, and then drop down and can then move freely at the top bit of this level. But clearly can still walk through here because they have it at collision here as we've done downstairs. So next what I want to do is to get rid of this light thing. So that's another thing. I basically need to make sure that some light remains, because otherwise it's very hard to see. So interesting enough, this still's got it's got emissive. That's why it's so much brighter. Right. Yeah. So one thing I can do is to change the properties of materials in rendering mode such that it's got a bit of emissive light coming out of it, so I can actually see what the hell's going on. Because currently we use like the similar light as we would use in game. So if there's no light, everything is pitch dark, as you've seen. It's not ideal, but that's something to consider. So let's have some fun here. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to add little point lights here. That's initially completely black, but I want to see if I can emulate like some kind of like fiery thing that comes from it. So if the player enables this, so it's probably reduce the range of this thing. Oops. Let's see, it's only lights. Let's say this little corner here, that looks about right. Yeah. So then we can add a, let's see, activatable volume here for player to light this thing up. So let's go send a message to entity number 35. 35, boom, and change the light properties to that, what we've just set it to. That's good. We are. And then initially this will be completely off, because I don't think, the thing I need to do basically to make sure that if a light is not active, it doesn't actually illuminate, but I've not done that yet. So for now, I'm basically going to set the light properties to not illuminate anything at all until the player gets here, press a button, and then the light will light up. So let's have a test with that. So I do need so let's add some sunlight maybe. So that'll be a directional light, just at an angle I suppose, like so. And it's got no emissive properties anymore. Just diffuse. That looks very funky. So I guess it's like a odd feature of the bump mapping shader I've got at the moment that doesn't quite work as it should. I'm pretty sure I've got a... It looks really weird. Because I've got like a normal cube here with like... Huh. Yeah, something's definitely amiss here. I thought I fixed it like a while ago, but clearly not. So now it's facing... Oh, actually, okay, so... Okay, so I think it's pointing upwards and doing some weird things. Alright, so... Okay, it's not great, but I can see it on the cube that doesn't have any bump mapping, it works just fine. But if I add bump mapping to this texture, this cube here, probably get to see a similar phenomenon. So that needs fixing. So brick looks fine, and then we add bump mapping, and then things probably go a bit crazy. Yeah, it looks... So oddly enough, it illuminates the back instead of the front. Huh, interesting. Well, anyways, we'll sort it out later at some point. Alright, so for now I got some really weird lighting going on. So it seems to be like the inverse of what you want it to be, and the normals are not happy. Anyways, something to figure out later on. So for now, I'll probably sort of move over here. I think so. Press E to interact, and by doing so, the light goes up, which is quite nice. So let's actually replace this light here because that's clearly not working. So, whoop. Not you, just select this bit. Why are you being selected? Go away. Anyway. Right, let's add a, instead of that, a spotlight. That should do much better. So it's more or less the same, sort of, not really. And let's, okay, don't have, okay, I've actually increase the radius of the thing, but this will be just fine. Okay, let's see what this looks like. That's a lot better. This is what like the other light should look like, but clearly doesn't. Okay. Okay, so let's add a little point light here and just make it illuminate a very small amount. Not you, give me a light. Light. The light, please. There we go. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but this fuse goes down. So, like a little bit of light. That's maybe too little. Maybe a bit like that. Let's get rid of this bad boy. There we are. Okay, so I got very poor light conditions that are happening here. So if I play now, I can see a little bit, not much. I'm moving up here. Got the prompt, and now we made a light. Cool. So for a little puzzle game, what we could do is just scatter a few elements that the player needs to collect in terms of pickups. So I can put one here. I can put one here and one here, say. And I'll just make bits up. And then you can basically play the game, and after you picked all of them up, they'll be declared a victor. So as you can see, if we go slightly off bounds, you see there's like 3 out of 3 to collect. So there's one here. Whoop. So now we got one out of 3, so we collect 2 more. There's one over here. Boom, 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 boom. That's another one. So I have one remaining, which is around here, I believe. So jump to pick it up. And now we say, we won, hooray! It's been kind of cool, think of it now. So if these bits are picked up to illuminate the scene quite brightly, and we can do that, I think. Let me think how. So I've got a... let me think this through. So I've got a counting component. Damn, I actually need to figure out how I did this. Oh, just got the interesting. Anyways, so every time, let me think this through. Right, so I can make a, say, trigger volume and say this is a, not of any type, but it is a counter component. If it reaches 3, then we send a message to, right, where's the light? Here, your number 40. So message number 40 when we hit count number 2. Let's change the lighting properties to be crazy, like bright, like that. Specular to the max, and ambient to the max. Create a 3 rather. Create a message. Right, and then we can very sneakily make this into a, let's see, how's this gonna work? So it should be a message component of type trigger volume, and then we say if you are, that's a message to number 44, so send message to number 44, there we are, increase count by, oops, 1. I wonder if this is going to work actually, because I'm not sure if this collision is going to matter for that. Let's find out. I mean, that's a little experiment. It might just completely fail, but hey ho. So you are a trigger volume. So when the player collides with that, stuff happens. So you need to send a message to number 44, I think. To increase count by 1. As a counter component. No, it's a component. There we go. And lastly, the one over, where are you? Over here, I'll do the same thing to this. So it might have completely fall flat because I've not actually tried this properly. I know I did it in another video, but I kind of forgot how I did it then. Silly enough. Okay, so increase count. Yes. Well, let's give it a shot. We'll see what happens. So let's move to player. Let's pick this one up first, I guess. Pick you up. Over here, turn the lights for funds. Pick you up. And lastly, pick the one up in the corner and hope something happens. It might do anything. Hey, look at that. So after we collect all the bits, in the bottom left corner it says we won. And the light properties change because we picked all of them up. So that's some game logic in this this level for you. Right, I think it's going to close it there before anything else breaks. But I thank you for attention, and I'll see you in a few weeks. Take care.